I guess I'm supposed to get started now, right? All right. Okay, let's see. I've got 9 minutes, so let's get started. I am Neil Salas Griffin. I'm the CEO of a company called the Starter League in Chicago. So I don't have any slides or anything like that. I'm just going to tell you a quick story about me and what this company does and why I'm here. So let's see. I'm 25 years old. I graduated from college, I guess, 2009. That's like 4 years ago. When I graduated, I was like a business guy. I studied economics. I was involved in a few startups. When I was a freshman, raised $250,000 to get pharmaceutical digital signage company off the ground, and then opened up a barber shop in Chicago because I was tired of how expensive it was for black people to get haircuts. And then I worked in venture capital. So I worked at a couple of venture capital firms in Chicago, one called OCA Ventures, another one called Sandbox Industries. All this experience I share with you. Hey, Lee, what's up, man? I went to college with that guy. So I share all this with you because when I graduated, I had been exposed to all this entrepreneurship, all this business, but I learned something very important, which was that I was becoming very obsolete. So at Sandbox Industries, the venture capital firm I worked at, I was an EIR, an entrepreneur in residence. So my job was to come up with great ideas or cool concepts for mobile apps and web apps, and then hire people to build them. So I designed the business model and came up with the plans. So I started pouring thousands of dollars into developers and designers to prototype these apps and ideas. And as I interacted with these people more and more, I learned how much I didn't know and how irrelevant I was going to become if things continued in that direction. So I decided by night to start to teach myself how to code. So I picked up a bunch of books and I read all of them. I started off with Python, the programming language, and I switched to Ruby, and then I discovered Rails. And in doing this for a few months, I realized that it was going to take a lot longer than a few months to learn. At least for someone like me that had no prior background, I wasn't that good at math, and I had no prior aptitude. So because of this, I decided to quit my job, drop everything. This is May of 2010, and do nothing for the next year except teach myself how to build web applications. So I did that. I did it with a friend of mine, my co-founder now, Mike McGee, and Mike and I took a whole year and pretty much did nothing. We did a little part-time work to pay the bills and eat food, but beyond that, we just studied. So I had read every book, every online tutorial, every video site you can imagine, lynda.com. Treehouse back then was called Think Vitamin. Codecademy did not exist yet. There were all these other places where you could learn how to code and all these books, and it was like a fire hose, and I took it all in. And a year goes by, and then I realized that I barely knew enough to prototype a basic application after a year of teaching myself day in and day out online. So we reflected and realized that when we looked around, there wasn't a place for us to learn these skills, and there should have been. When I decided to quit my job, and when my co-founder graduated from college and we wanted to learn these skills, web design, web development, why wasn't there a place we could go to learn these skills? There were a few programs we could do graduate school computer science, but they weren't exactly teaching the things that we needed to know to build the apps we wanted to build. We were teaching ourselves Ruby on Rails and a lot of advanced front-end development and graphic design. And then as I looked around, a lot of the boot camps and workshops that existed were lasted for about 4 or 5 days, cost anywhere from $3,000 or $4,000, and were geared towards developers looking to pick up new skills, not beginners trying to learn how to be technologists without the background in college or graduate school. So, entrepreneur sees an opportunity. What do? Something about it. We decided to start a school. So this was 2011, April of 2011. So we decided to start a school. And the name of the school at the time was Codecademy. 4 months later, as some of you may know, Y Combinator comes out with their batch of startups. With that comes a startup called Codecademy, with the A dropped in Academy. So that was a trademark nightmare for us. Needless to say, when we were launching our school, we had a lot of confusion because there's a site that got millions of users within a month because they had this awesome online platform. But then there was also this small school in Chicago charging $6,000 to teach hopefully 12 people Ruby on Rails in 3 months. What we learned in launching our site, despite the confusion, was that far more than 12 people were interested in signing up for our program. It turns out nearly 100 students applied in a month's time for those 12 spots from all over the world. So we took 35 students instead of 12, and then we were immediately profitable from day one. But in doing so, we still had to do the work. And what we learned was that we had to help people fly in from the Philippines, from Europe, from Africa, from all these places because they wanted to move to Chicago to go through our program because nothing of the sort had existed before. So they did that. We rented out, or we subleased 10 cubicles in Groupon's offices, and that was our classroom. And we taught a group of people Ruby on Rails. Turns out we succeeded. I did not know that we could do it, but we found an instructor in Chicago that happens to be one of the best in the world. He just happens to be hanging out in the suburb in Chicago, and we got this program off the ground. All right, so we did that school as at fall of 2011. Year and a half now, I stand to you today, 600 students later, and we've taught a number of different topics now that we've grown. So in Chicago, we now have 2 classrooms in a space called 1871. It's a 50,000 square foot co-working space. We're a featured tenant there, and we teach user experience design, visual design, front-end HTML, CSS, Ruby on Rails, as well as some entrepreneurship. And in doing so, we've learned a number of different outcomes, and we've inspired this whole kind of learn to code in X number of month movement. So one thing that happens is a lot of students end up getting jobs. Another thing that happens is a lot of people that work at companies convince their companies to send them to schools like ours to go back and bring a new skill set. And a lot of people are quitting their jobs, coming to programs like ours and building their own products, startups, or companies. So there's some interesting things happening in education. I'm really proud that, we were, I guess, a part of the forefront of this whole movement of these development schools and boot camps and hacker schools and things like that, because with just our little school in Chicago in 2011, I think there's over dozens, if not hundreds, all over the world now that exist where you have a site and it says X number of months, learn this much, we'll place you into a job. But what I'll share in the final 2 minutes, or actually 1 minute, and then I'll open it up for questions, is our vision for the world and why, what happens for us in the future. So while we've done really well at teaching beginners, like pure beginners, people like me, how to prototype a web app good enough to sometimes get a job, definitely good enough to prototype their own idea and build their own web application, we've also had a lot of conversation with the city of Chicago as well as with the White House about the work that we've done in pioneering this beginner-focused technical education for practical web development and design. So we actually decided to partner with Mayor Rahm Emanuel and the city of Chicago to train CPS and city colleges in Chicago some of our curriculum. So they're actually going to be teaching what we do in our classrooms throughout the city colleges and 5 STEM schools in Chicago. Additionally, we're actually teaching for Northwestern University's Kellogg Business School, and we're also teaching for University of Chicago's graduate computer science program. So we've done a lot of work in a year and a half, and we have a long way to go, and I'm still trying to figure out what the path is, but we're dead set focused on building the quality of our program in Chicago. And then in the future, the idea is to disseminate the curriculum through some software we're building, as well as through other resources and means such as video lectures and things like that, if things go well. But the primary focus is on helping beginners ship real web applications in 3 to 6 months. So we've done pretty well at that. I'd love to talk to any of you that are interested in our partnerships, our work, our software, what have you. And I'd love to just get to know you guys. So that's me. Any questions? You guys know all about the Starter League and everything? You guys know all about those programs and things like that? All right, thank you.